Hey everybody, it's Mike D at Down Peppertree Lane, and check out my shop with collectibles and gifts at downpeppertreelane.com and support my work. Like, subscribe, Patreon. Okay, let's talk 1979. I was in junior high. It was an incredible year for music. There were the music wars of 79. What that means is a lot of musicians were arguing and fighting about styles of music, which was the best. And so were the fans, and they were trying to get on the radio. Remember, back then there was just the radio dial and the DJs. It's not like you could just download things on Spotify or Pandora. So it was a different climate and competitive, and that competitiveness meant there was a lot of great music. So you had straight ahead pop in 79. Things like Barry Manilow was very popular, and Billy Joel, and kind of crowd pleasing, middle of the road music. But it wasn't talked a lot about in junior high school. It was just there. And a lot of that was driven by adults, even like Neil Diamond. Things like Forever and Blue Jeans was a really popular song around 79. It was just there in the background. Um, but in the foreground with teenagers, you had power pop, which was starting to explode. And that was like kind of stripped down, energetic music with big guitars like the Knack. And that was the year that they ruled the school with My Sharona. um, and somewhat Rick Springfield, Nick Lowe, these types of things. Um, and then there was like country pop, and that was things like Kenny Rogers. He was really big at that time. He had a song like called like "Love Will Turn You Around," which was pretty good. But John Denver was country pop. But that was just sort of played a lot on the radio, but not a lot of excitement among the teenagers. It was more adult driven. And then there was New Wave, which was skinny ties and cool sunglasses and bleached out hair. That was Blondie. And a lot of big new wave bands, Talking Heads, were making inroads into music. And then you had more hard rock, things like, Black Sabbath or Rush. And there was a really strong crowd of people that followed them religiously. And then there was disco, and disco was fading out in 79, mainly because in the summer there was an incident at a baseball stadium. A DJ blew up thousands of disco records. They felt the music was synthetic, it was repetitive and boring, and producer driven, not really artist driven. And I think that was true in a lot of cases, but not all cases. So bands were kind of on their way out as far as disco after that, like Casey and the Sunshine Band was dropping in popularity. And the Bee Gees had a big record that year, but it was called Spirits Having Flown. But the big song on the radio was called Tragedy, more of a rock song, really. And then a ballad. They had a ballad called Too Much Heaven. So they kind of wisely chose to release a ballad around that time and stay away from straight ahead disco. Kiss was kind of trying to please everybody. They had a big hit record called Dynasty, and the hit was the rock disco song called I Was Made for Loving You. And if you watch the video, it shows the confusion of the times and the mixing of the styles. And the rest of that record was more pop rock. So they were going in different directions at that time, or in transition. some of the big like new wave and the punk that was starting to heat up around that time was things like PIL and Black Flag, and you would hear about clubs down in Hollywood where people were slam dancing and bouncing around. And I mean, I would never be allowed. My parents would never allow that, and some of the kids that were from stricter families wouldn't be involved in that. But I heard about it around school from some of the other kids that had gone down to clubs and been slam dancing around and stuff. Some of the big new wave groups were Blondie. They had a record called Eat to the Beat. I would recommend you check out. And the song on the radio was called Dreamin'. And that really captures the era for me, that song Dreamin'. And they could do many different styles, but they were on a lot of the rock magazines with Debbie Harry and very popular. Talking Heads, like I said, were out on the radio with a song called Take Me to the River, which was very quirky and offbeat and new. And I remember Rock Lobster was big from the B-52s, and kids would come to school in like neon clothing or sunglasses and some dyed hair, and they would be dancing and bopping around to Rock Lobster. So that showed like the winds of change kind of blowing through the high schools and tastes and attitudes shifting. The band that kind of drove a lot of that was called The Cars, and they had a song around then called Let's Go and Candy-O, and they were a rock band with guitars, but they added keyboards and synthesizers and definitely had some new wave styling. So to me, they were kind of bridging the gap, and a lot of us crossed that bridge with The Cars and got into new wave. Kind of meat and potatoes rock was real big at the time. Like Foreigner had a great record called Head Games. I remember the song Head Games all over the radio. And they were touring heavily and playing big stadium concerts. So there was definitely like straight ahead power chord rock was popular at the time as well. And Toto was a little bit lighter, a little bit pop rock, but doing really well, very popular at the time. Then you had in the harder rock scene, you had Led Zeppelin come out big and strong with a record called In Through the Outdoor. And they had songs all over AM and FM radio. They had a ballad called All My Love, and a great song called Fool in the Rain, which I strongly recommend you listen to. It even has some like calypso type of beat. They were very talented. And Caras Alhambra was hard rock. So they were playing huge festivals at that time and really a big popular band. The other pop rock group that was massive was Supertramp. They released a record called Breakfast in America. And I was looking it up. They had like 4 singles on the radio. Songs like Take the Long Way Home. And they seem to be really popular with like adults and kids, kind of across the board. Very British, very classy. They brought in the saxophone and piano, and very stylish and unique group. So I think one of the records I remember most from '79 was Breakfast in America. It seemed like everybody kind of had that record except maybe like the hardcore punkers and heavy metal crowd or something. You had Black Sabbath kind of ending right around then, and that was right before Ozzy went solo. And heavy metal kind of heated up the next year. But in '79, the other big record I remember was The Wall from Pink Floyd. Very British, talking about war and mental illness and all kinds of dark, obscure lyrics. I remember people really like debating and discussing the lyrics. It was all very intellectual, and the big record was called Another Brick in the Wall, which had almost a pulsing kind of a dance beat to it. So that was a massively popular record at that time. The Rolling Stones were still big and strong, a veteran band. They released Emotional Rescue. They had a great rocker called She's So Cold, I would recommend. And they were still strongly carrying the flag for like veteran traditional rock bands from the 60s that could still pack in stadiums and doing quite well. Thank you very much. And then the Eagles weighed in with The Long Run, which was massively popular at that time with a big tour. And nobody knew there was a lot of infighting at that time. This was before social media. They could keep a lot of problems hidden and secret. But it did all blow up about a year later on tour. They had a big fight on stage and they all broke up. But for the time in '79, they were able to get on the radio. I recommend a song called In the City by Joe Walsh. Just a fantastic tune for that time. And then Tom Petty with his signature album, Damn the Torpedoes. And he had just emerged from a big lawsuit and was in a feisty mood and defiant and a real rocker and seemed to be liked by everybody from sort of the power pop group to mainstream rock. He just covered a lot of bases and was popular across the board. And then a group that really peaked with a huge live album that year was called Cheap Trick. And the record was live at Budokan. They went to Japan where they were huge and they were like pretty boys, and the Japanese girls, just loved to scream and yell, and they captured that energy in the concert. And a song called Surrender was just all over the radio at that time. So '79 was before MTV. There were late night rock shows called like Don Kirshner's Rock Concert or the Midnight Special. So we would all kind of wait up on Friday night and Saturday night to watch these music clips. They weren't really videos yet. They were promotional clips made by the record company. And you could see all the things I was talking about, or concert clips. And that was really exciting. You would only really see them once or twice for the week, and that was it. And then talk about it with all your friends at school about, what is cool around the school. So I've kind of given you a lay of the land. One or two more. I mean, the Police came out with their second album, and they had songs like, Message in a Bottle was really big, kind of reggae, new wavy, punky. They were kind of where it's at. All eyes were on England for this new kind of music that was coming out. And it was very much a British wave at the time, although we loved all of our American artists. There was a big focus on what's coming over from England. And it was a very exciting time to see this new crop or new wave of bands coming to the shores of America. So that was the music wars of '79. Like I said, a lot of kind of friendly arguments about what was the best bands to be played on the radio and in the top 40, and what was number one, and what sucked and what was great, and what was just average or boring. It was all kind of there in the top 40. So please do check into that year. You can type in 1979 rock or pop on YouTube and see what comes up. And I'll leave it at that. I'm Mike D at downpeppertreelane.com. Support my store and my work, all my collectibles, my gift bags. It's all there for your enjoyment. And like, subscribe, and Patreon. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.